You're listening to the Rock and Roll Show on BRFM 95.6 and also online. Tune in every Thursday night from 7 to 10 p.m. for your share of the hottest sounds around with your DJ and host, Rockin Dave.
There you go, that's Matchbox and Buzz Buzz a Diddle It. And we should have on the phone Jimmy Redhead from Matchbox. Hello, Jimmy.
Hello there, folks. How are you?
We're good, mate. How about you?
Yeah, I'm fine now. Yeah, got over my COVID.
Yeah, that's good.
Kicked it into touch and survived.
Yeah, I mean, it's going round, isn't it? And it's not good. It really isn't good.
No, it's not, I tell you. It's awful.
Do you know,
but
before
happy days now.
Before we get into everything else, let's lay all the rumours to rest.
Right. Now, for some unknown reason, some German site administrator put out that the band had finished.
Yep.
Steve Bloomfield wouldn't play anymore, and Fred wasn't going to play anymore, and all sorts of rumours.
Yep.
No, the band hasn't finished. Mm-hmm. Steve's making a remarkable recovery.
Yep.
He's playing well. He's walking 2 or 3 hours a day. And, of course, until we get gigs confirmed, we're just sitting here like every other band waiting to get out and chomping at the bit, to be honest with you. I speak to all the boys every day.
Yep.
Gigs are starting to come in, but penciled, as it were.
Yeah, of course.
They get moved forward, move forward. We're hoping, which is trying to get the Wildest Cats in town this summer, which is due to a bit doubtful, but that probably be the first one if anything comes of it. But as far as in the rumours go, no, we're all fighting fit and we're all raring to go.
Lovely. Yeah. So that's everything. So Steve, Steve had his stroke, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a minor stroke.
Yeah.
And he spent a bit of time in rehabilitation.
Yep.
And he came home.
Mm-hmm.
His wife was in a care home because she had a stroke a long time ago.
Yep.
Unfortunately, she passed away, so it was a bit of a hit.
Yeah.
And when he first came out, he just didn't feel it, obviously, because he was recovering.
Of course.
But the lockdown's out because he's stuck at home with all his guitars, and that's all he's got to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
But no, I speak to him every day. He's just, his wicked sense of humour's there, and he's playing 2 or 3 hours a day every morning.
Good.
And
good.
he's nearly back on form,
Yeah, so we're going to see Matchbox out on the scene again very soon.
We certainly will. It's not going to keep us down after 50 years, that's for sure.
Is it 50 years now, is it?
Yeah, well, 71 was the first gig we did with Fred and Will. It was Contraband, we called ourselves, was my wedding, my first wedding. The band never turned up, and of course all the lads were there, so we shot up and got our gear. And we only did 8 songs, we played 7 songs, but that's when it kicked off as Contraband, and another band was called Contraband, and the local Teds in Felton used to come and see us. We had a competition. Let's pick a new name, because we did Matchbox, Carl Perkins, and said, well, call yourself Matchbox. That was about 73, 74, around that time. Yeah. And that's where it stuck from,
Yeah. Oh, and that was with Wilfie Smith.
Wiffle, yeah.
Wiffle Smith, sorry.
Les Smith. Yeah. So, obviously, I'd left the band to form Cruisers with Gordon, and Bob Burgess popped in, and then Wiffle left and Graham came in. So, and then Bob Burgess disappeared, and they asked me to come back in, and I said, well, as long as we bring Gordon with me, so we left Cruisers and went back in, and as we are now, the same 5 since then.
Yeah, and still making records as well.
Yeah, I think we're the only original lineup left, really? I think, out of all those people. It's always one that's gone, one that's left, one that's replaced, and all that caper,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, it has been a hell of a long ride for you. I mean, you were up in the charts. Yeah. I mean, doing all the old Rockabilly Rebel and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean, have you got any stories about back then?
Well, it was all a bit of a rush, really, because 2 years went by. We were flying everywhere, here, there, and everywhere, private jets and the limos and all that old pop star thing. And I was never home. I'd got 3 little kiddies, And it's a funny story. Steve always used to tell that my missus used to meet me at the airport with another suitcase, and my kids would go, "Who's that, Mum?" That's your dad. Shut up! Off they go somewhere else. You know, could be in 3 countries in one day. But
yeah.
It was strange because you did Top of the Pops, you know, with like Madness and all that chart, and then 2 weeks later you meet the same crowd going out to Germany to do their version, Music Laden, and then the next day you'll be in Spain with the same crowd again. You meet up with so each time you were in the charts with a song, you look, a bunch of your artists would, "Hello mate, how's it going? Where you been?" You know, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Different world.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very different world, doesn't it? You know, most rock and roll and rockabilly bands don't sort of see that side of it. But you had, you were probably the most successful out of all the rock and roll bands.
Well, we were the first, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, it was a build-up because, and apart from Cavern, most of the bands were doing covers, and of course Steve was writing, and we were playing mandolin and a bit of steel and a slap bass, and it was different. And of course, we were packing him down at the royalty there, and it was we were starting to pack him around, getting a good following. And an old DJ from Mr. George's in Coventry, Tilly Rutherford, was working for Magnum Records, and he just popped up with royalty and went, "Bloody hell, excuse my French, what's going on here?" So dragged Michael and said, "We've got to get this, we're signed up. Look, you've got a market ready to buy stuff, because the clubs were filling up all run." And away it went, Originally signed us to do Black Slacks, me and Gordon. And of course, it was a bit of a controversy. Graham was lead singer, so he ended up doing it. And then, of course, Steve came up. We were doing Record Be the Rebel, but in a different sort of. It wasn't produced, as it were. It was like a demo stage. Peter Collins, we were his first band that he'd ever produced. He used to do adverts before then, and we were his break. And he tore it to bits, Rebel, and away it went, simple as that.
I mean, it wasn't actually your biggest hit, but it's the one that everyone remembers.
No, Ask About Love was our biggest, number 4. We sold enough records to be number 1, would you believe? But unfortunately, John Lennon died that week.
Right, I remember that
and the BBC went on strike. So we missed 2 weeks at Top of the Pops.
Right.
And we were selling well enough to be a number 1, which was 60,000 a week or something like that. Can't remember the figure. But, with John Lennon dying, everyone went and bought Imagine and Woman and whacked them up the charts. And then Barbara Streisand did that Woman in Love thing and pushed us to number 4.
It's a totally different world now, isn't it, the charts?
There's, I think we worked it out. If you type in like Spotify or whatever it is, if you have 9 million hits, I think you get paid about 60 pence.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
I know, it's well, there's no record market as such now.
No.
It's weird because when we were having our success, you made your money by records if you got any out of the record company, that was. But you didn't make anything on gigs because your gigs promoted the records. Now it's the other way round.
Exactly, I mean, I went to sort of like massive gigs at Wembley, and I was paying like £14 to see like 4 or 5 big bands. Now you've got to pay £100, £200 just to go and see one person.
Well, looking at Eagles, there's £155 for the cheapest seats.
Exactly.
It's God knows what the front rows are.
Exactly, it's just ridiculous money now, isn't it?
I know.
But most of the rock and roll stars aren't going to be sort of in those sort of gigs. Luckily for us, going to see them. But we don't do many gigs, as it were. We sort of way now with a set fee. Promoter provides everything. It's for the flight or whatever. And the beginning, and we just turn up, play for around a quarter, whatever it is, and go home. It's easy now because we don't want to have all the lugging trucks and road crews. I can imagine that.
I mean, we did a 3-month tour of Europe. England, something like that, and lost money.
Blimey,
And back-to-back tour, all around Germany, Holland, standing over with a truck and the minibus and the road crew and tour bus and all that old toffee.
Yeah.
Selling out, and we come back and said, what we earned? We went, nothing, you've lost money.
That's not good, is it? That's not good.
No. But that was then, you said what you did, but
Yeah.
still.
Yeah. So how did you get into rock and roll yourself?
Well,
because, I mean, you from what you tell me, you when you were sort of a teenager, it was sort of like the Beatles period.
Well, yeah, we started, funny story how the band started. I was into me motorbikes, I had a Beezer, road rocket and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And in the back garden, like you do, tinkering around at about sort of 17 or 18, starting the bike up with no exhaust pipe. This bloke, and I was in the boys' brigade, played drums, marching drums, and I had a little kit I used to knock about with and play along with small faces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this bloke stuck his head over the fence and said, "Look, mate, can you just not rev that up?" He said, "You keep me awake." I said, "Well, you keep me awake with your bloody guitar in there." He said, "Listen, I'm forming a band."
Yeah.
And I went, "Oh, yeah, do you want a drummer?" He went, "Well, as it happens, yeah."
Okay.
And it was a guy called Barry Danes, a neighbour.
Right.
And Whiffle turned up with another guitarist. We said we're looking for a bass player.
Right.
And my late wife's brother, Fred, he said, "Well, I play bass." So bang, we got this... We started rehearsing in the kitchen, as you do, with bits and bobs.
Yeah.
And of course, as I say, my wedding was the first gig, and then we were playing. The hits of the day were Beatles and Stones, but also you got in the Chuck Berrys and that was creeping in,
Yeah.
And then we used to play regularly at the Railway Club in Felton. There's a couple of Teds used to hang about down there. They used to work on the railway, and then we'd get up and start bopping to our few rock and roll songs, and we started adding more in, and more Teds started turning up, and the Beatles and the Stones went out and it was
we lost you a bit then.
Yeah. Oh, hello?
Yeah, go on. You're back again.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, the Stones and the Beatles went out the window, and it was all rock and roll,
Yeah.
And Whiffle was a good ballad singer. We used to do a lot of Everly's, me and him singing along, stuff like that. And we had a residency Tuesday, let me think, Sunday lunchtime and Sunday night at a pub in Hounslow.
Right.
And it was packed out, And then what happened was one of the Teds said, "You want to go up to the Lyceum?" Well, I think it was every Wednesday every month or something, or Thursday every month.
Yep.
It was rock and roll night. Of course, their eyes, Cavern was on, and Cadillac, and we went, "Christ, this is what we got to do." So we found the agent.
Yeah. And
he said, "Well, I'll give you a chance." He said, "I'll put you in a little pub in Hackney, in High Street." So we turned up at this pub, and you know what the London rock and roll scene was like. Then you didn't get a clap or a cheer or nothing,
Yeah.
And at the end, Terry was he ran the wire Tottenham after that. Came up, he said, "Well, I want to get you boys back." He said, "We went down really well." I said, "Did it?" He went, "Well, they didn't throw nothing at you, did they?" I said, well, no. He said, "Well, you went down well, mate, trust me." Of course, then this agent, Lee Allen, which was Carousel Artists, who booked most of the bands in, said, "Right, I'll start sticking." We did the Pier Bar, Southend, and off we went, It was better get a van then.
Because obviously the first Matchbox album was you and Whiffle, wasn't it? And Fred Polk.
Yeah, I wasn't on that. Bob was on that then.
Oh, was he? All right, okay.
The first album. I was on the first singles with the Dog label with Ian Terry before Steve came along.
Yeah.
But I'd left the band before they were going out to Holland to Rockhouse to record that. Bob Burgos came in. And I went and formed Cruisers, and then they did the Woods album after that. Riders in the Sky, Woods album, which went Bob left halfway through virtually, and then I joined back in after that.
So just before they started making the big time?
Well, the structure of the band changed. You see, with me and Gordon being kind of having a good voice and me singing as well at the back, it changed the we backing vocals were added all of a sudden, Oohs and Ahs and Shalalas, and Steve, it freed, with Gordon playing rhythm, it freed Steve up to get all his rework done, where he had to concentrate on being the only guitarist there, like a piano player, like Rusty was in, and the band sort of knitted, you know what I mean? That's it, then we got that's what we want,
Yeah, I mean that's what a lot of people don't realise is Graham you know, he's seen as the main singer, but Gordon does just as much singing as.
Gordon was lead singer in a lot of Cruises, and Rockin Pneumonia was lead singer.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a different tone of voice. And if you listen to the albums, Gordon always singing 2 or 3 songs.
Yeah.
In fact, we released a single in Germany, 24 Hours,
right,
as a double A side with Graham, and it was, you know, quite a minor hit out there for Gordon singing.
Yeah.
And then of course we got the Kirsty McCall scene. She came in and done the I Want Out later on.
Yeah.
When the structure of the band changed again, Steve decided to stay at home and write, and he became house writer for Magnet.
Yep.
Luckily was roadieing for us, and Dick Callan, and he sort of helped out and leapt in as guitar, you know, lead guitar. So the structure changed again.
Yeah.
And then Fred went, and we got Brian Hodgson in.
Yep.
Another structure changed, and the album sort of differed because different people were on it, you know.
Of course, yeah. I mean, Brian Hodgson, he wrote sort of Shooting Gallery, which Shaky
wrote
went.
Shooting Gallery from Shaky, and he wrote a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And there was a little writing team because Steve had sort of left Magnet and not disappeared, but just went close to it, you know, and no songs were coming out. But we had a little team of Brian, the songwriters, if you those later albums. Yeah. Were all originals, not from the band, but from Brian's little songwriting clique. You know?
Yeah.
Billy Bremner co-wrote one. Pete Kirsch, the drummer that was with Slater's Quo, co-wrote one, and
right,
you know,
nice,
and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, get all more interesting.
Very, yeah. But obviously, towards the end of the recording career, you started sort of going. The record label were taking you in more poppy sort of.
Yeah, they were. That's the trouble. You don't got no control.
No,
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, and there's your producer. You know, you go and you whack it down. You weren't allowed in any of the mixes. You had no say on it. You just once you've got it down, that's what you got, and that's what you're having, and that's what's going out. You know.
Yeah.
Which is very frustrating sometimes, you know, because you've got to think, oh my God, what have they done with that?
Yes,
right. You know.
Yeah.
And of course, they got, by the time Rebel came out, about 11, Rain was, he had another Christmas song, Don't Break Up a Party, and Graham insisted he wanted to do the Rainbow Gene Vincent thing, and it didn't really, people did get to grips with it because they didn't realise Gene Vincent connection. They just saw a rockabilly band singing G. Island song, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Quite, it sort of lost its flavour, you know. By which time the Shakers had turned up, and the Polecats and the Jets and the Shaky Stevens are all sort of zooming ahead, you know.
Yeah, the Stray Cats and all those sort of people.
But you know, we think, you know, that 2 or 3 songs the Stray Cats had, and they were still selling out Brixton Academy, you know.
Exactly. Like, you know, it just doesn't seem right, does it? You know. I mean, they had possibly 3-4 hits. You know, the Jets probably the same. You know, but you had 8 or 9, 10 hits. Yeah. At least, you know.
7 top 30s it was.
Yeah.
You know, and then a few outsides, you know, but still selling. You know, the album sold.
Yeah.
And Europe, you know, European is even bigger. You know, when you think Germany is 4 times the selling market. Yeah. Monster hits out there. And we had 2 albums. It's only a small country, but we had 2 albums at number 1 a year.
Really?
The first and second, the Dinos and the Matchbox album were twin number 1 albums for a whole year. Got platinum discs from them. It was still big out there. It's strange. You know, you walk around the streets of Helsinki and people rushing up to you, having your photo taken, and all this sort of thing. You know.
Yeah.
And it's still going out there. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
We play a gig in Finland. You're getting like 3 generations turning up. You know, of fans. It's quite strange.
Yeah.
But,
to the other extreme, you know, I sit on the table next to you and don't even recognise you.
I know, Belgium.
You know, just different day, different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's when the custard pie came over, we realised something was up.
Exactly, that's right. Right. Oh, yes. Okay. Now, you've chosen a record. Do you want to tell everyone why you've chosen this record?
Right. Okay. It's a long Dean Martin song. Don't let the stars get in your. Dean Martin song. Don't let the stars get in your eyes.
Yeah.
And when we recorded recorder down, we were allowed to pick a track like I wanted to see, and it's always been in the back of my mind. I've loved the track, you know, and did a lot of work on it vocal-wise and all the bits and bobs.
Yeah.
And out of coincidence, just a few years ago, I did this thing where when people want to try it, what was number one the day you were born?
Right, yeah.
And it happened to be Don't Let the Dark Get in Your Eyes, the day of born, 4th of February 1953.
Yeah.
And it's very strange, but there you go. It's still my favourite. It ticks along. It's got a good rockabilly beat and lots of vocals and a great solo from Steve. Really good solo in it.
Definitely. Yeah. Right, well, thank you for coming on, Jimmy.
No problem. Enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, no problem. And and everybody out there has got to go to the official Matchbox page on Facebook.
Yeah, the official Matchbox page. It's the new one we've got now. It's all our own stuff.
Yeah.
Some really good stuff turning up on there. Stuff I've never seen before. And some funny rebel records from Finland and all around the world. Some strange versions of it.
Nice. And you were telling me that you're going to be doing like Zoom meetings and stuff on there with people.
Fred Polk's son and his young lady are admin in the site, and they are, you know, looking for ideas. We're going to do competitions on there and things like this. And she said, "Well, what about I do a Zoom interview? People throw questions at me." I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." So that's coming to come up. We're going to. She's really got into it, this Andrea girl, and she's a lovely girl, and she's really into the band, and she's going to try and get all sorts of competitions. We're going to put some prizes up, you know, who can find the most obscure rockabilly rebel version or something like that, you know. But it's well worth getting on there, you know, and keeping in touch, and we're going to put the gigs on, and it'll be an up and run, real good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's already sort of up to virtually 500 members, I think.
510, I just checked before I come on.
within a couple of days. So that ain't going bad, is it?
Yeah, 2 days.
You know, we'll have to put this interview on there as well.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Definitely. Right, well, thank you, Jimmy. And
no problem.
Send our love to all the band. And I'm sure...
I'll speak to them all tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll see you all soon. So,
yeah.
Thank you, and
cheers, mate.
Speak to you soon, mate, yeah?
Speak to you soon. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, bye. Bye.